This video is just for me to yap about stupid questions I have about Project Moon and the story of the city. Now, before I start, I have seen playthroughs of Lobotomy Corp and Library of Runa, and I finished Limbus up to Kanto 8. So my first question is, if you were to do a Mong dropkick, what would it look like, and what would be the better option? I'm gonna assume that it's better to have the ring around both legs rather than individually, since having both rings around your legs would be stronger. But also, the other one might just be easier. For my next question, if I made a robot and gaslit it or made it believe that it was human, would the head allow it to exist? I'll give it artificial memories to make it believe it's human. What if I suddenly revealed to the robot one day that, hey, you were never human, you were a robot? Would the head allow it to exist then still, or would they obliterate? If the robot was say in an office building and it learned the truth of its existence, would the head then come in, tear down the entire building to kill the robot? And if they do, would they then come for me after? Because I technically made the robot. They probably would. Now, this isn't really a stupid question, but are crows not allowed in the city? I'm asking because we know the only sentient life in the city is human, but then we have animals there too. Animals like rats, foxes, and chickens. There's also a lot of symbolism with crows, such as Angela's dress or the crowman in Kanto 8. So, are crows considered sentient by city laws? Is there a cutoff range for sentience in the city? On the topic of animals, my friend asked a question. Can animals use Shin or Mong? Is Shin and Mong a human-only thing, or can monsters do it too? If it is a human-only thing, is Shin and Mong attached to the brain or the body? And if it is attached to the brain, can I transplant that and put it into an animal? And then could the animal then use Shin and Mong? Moving on. Does the city have any way to fly? We know from Leviathan that the city doesn't have planes due to Garnet's reaction and not recognizing them. And we know the city does have flight with the K-Corp drones. But the question is, have they given it to people? We know LTE Faust can fly, but I'm talking about it being commercialized. Do they go around selling jetpacks in Hum Hum Pung Pung? On to my next question. What about the languages of the city? We know the sweepers have their own language. Does each wing and nest have their own language, or does everybody just speak Korean? And if everybody doesn't speak Korean, is it translated for us? Is it a bit like D&D, where Common is the most spoken language, but then there's still all the other languages everyone else has? So how are aberrants decided for abnormalities? Is it by a person's bloodline or their experiences? Like Magic Bullet and Fell Bullet, what was different in their creation that Fell Bullet's an aberrant, and yet it's an aberrant of Magic Bullet? I'm gonna give you a headcanon of mine to give you an example, but Magic Bullet was a strategist who would sacrifice their soldiers tactically to always win the fight, whereas Fell Bullet would conveniently forget about some soldiers, but still win the fight nonetheless. Back to a stupid question, but what happens when two Wild Hunts meet in the same mirror world? Do they fight or decide to work together? And if they do decide to fight, does it end up like Avengers Endgame with the final fight with all the portals opening? Or is there something preventing multiple Wild Hunts from getting to the same mirror world? With that being said, is there a mirror world where it's just Wild Hunt Heathcliff, but he's a fish? What about streaming? We know Camille was a streamer, and from the looks of it, an IRL streamer. But what about other types of streaming, like gaming? Do we have VTubers in the city? Streaming implies that they have a video hosting platform, so that means the platform has rules and regulations. With that being said, what kind of rules and regulations would that platform have? On top of that, what kind of sponsors would that platform have? Like Hum Hum Pung Pung sponsor, where you gotta go eat their food on video, or something like that. What about a workshop sponsor, where you have to go use the weapon? What about a sponsor from Wings? Imagine a K-Corp sponsor. Probably something similar to a Flex Tape ad. I'd cut this man in half, hamburger style, and I revived him with this here Cake Corp ampule. Ampule? I don't know. Not really a question, but something funny to think about is memes of the city. Like me when my homie says to the syndicate member, "I'm not afraid of you." With that being said, what would happen if I throw somebody into a conception incinerator? Would that person just be forgotten, or would they just burn up like any other incinerator? And if they do get erased, what if I had like a picture of them? Would that just kinda... Video games of the city. What kind of games do we have in the city? Like shooter games, sports games? Do we have Project Moon in the city making games? Does the city have VR games? Do we have an SAO type of game where you lose it and, I don't know, your PC explodes? Now, to end off on a not stupid question, what's the process for leaving the city? We know getting into the city is a hard process because of the amount of paperwork it takes. But, like, if I was to try and leave the city right now, would the head kind of stop me? Like, would there be a border guard? Could I go outside and then come back in with a fixer license? Are there other massive towns or cities like the city? Are there robots outside the city walls? Side tangent, but the DIG Association and the Middle are probably the best about finding about the history of the city, since the Middle would never forget any slight against them, and the DIG Association gets stronger for information that's really common. Another side note, but the DIG Association has every reason to control the flow of information into the city, since it gets stronger depending on how rare the information is. I'm assuming that information can get stronger if less people remember it too, like the history of the city. Now, I could be completely wrong and just misremembering how the DIG's power works. Anyways, we've only really been told that there's nothing worthwhile in the outskirts. But what if people did find things in the outskirts that were better than the city itself? Or the things that the outskirts explorers found just killed them? Not like we'll know because we have no access to the outskirts, and the DIG Association has every reason not to tell us. Anyways, that's my DIG conspiracy theory. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.